It's a big honor to be here today with you guys. Thanks for being here with me. In this session, I would like to explain what we have available for entrepreneurs, startups, innovators, researchers at the European Commission with the funding and support services that we have under the framework program Horizon 2020. So let me start by saying that innovation, for all of us, we know that it's a key driver of economic growth, of competitiveness. It's essential for our well-being. It helps tackling global challenges while it's building jobs and growth. In Europe, we have excellent science. So in some fields, even the best in the world. But we really struggle when we are trying to apply that excellence, those excellence discoveries into the new products and services that will make or create new markets. So there we have an issue. I'm not here today to just explain our economic analysis, but let me just quote one reference that I read a couple of months ago. The quote comes from Xavier Niel. He's a French tech entrepreneur and also well known because of being the co-owner of Le Monde, the French journal. He said the following: if you sum up the market value of all the companies in the world dealing with new technologies, you reach a figure around $3 trillion. Do you know what is the stake, the share of EU companies in that? It's hardly 3%, when the EU stands for about 1/4 of the GDP of the world. So there we have a big issue, because those new companies will become the industries of the future. So we realize that, okay, there's a lot of startups, there are a lot of companies innovating in Europe, but those disruptive, market-creating, breakthrough innovations are not raising at the same level as in other countries in the world. So we analyze Horizon 2020. It's the biggest framework program for research and innovation, with over 77 billion euros between 2014 and 2020. I really realized what I mentioned, that there's a lot of innovation going there, but really we need to boost, we need to incentivize more risk-taking for really try to reach those high potential innovations. So here I would like to present the first step for the European Innovation Council, basically offering smart money to bold innovators, be it researchers, entrepreneurs, startups, small and medium-sized enterprises, with the objective to really strengthen breakthrough innovation and boost the, let's say, the high growth companies, the number of high growth companies. How we do with that? By clicking there, okay. Sorry, I have a lot of animations on my slides, so I hope it works. So basically, we are doing that by putting together a comprehensive scheme of the 4 main instruments available in Horizon 2020, supporting from early stage research on visionary ideas of new technologies of the future to test and co-creation, feasibility and startup phase, development and scaling up stages. We have at the disposal of all those entrepreneurs and members of startups and small and medium-sized companies about 2.7 billion euros to support their high-risk innovations. So how are these working? First, the program FED Open, that is, as I said, early research stages for new technologies of the future, that we will invest around 700 million euros to support 340 projects. These projects should be built in consortia. Therefore, the partners should at least be 3 different partners from 3 different countries, where usually the collaboration is required because The developments are very capital intensive, and you require also access to, let's say, high quality facilities, infrastructure, etc. So this is really targeted to a collaboration between research centers, universities, companies, and corporates. Then we will invest in 300 million euros in a project, in a program that is called Fast Track to Innovation, that is trying also to co-create together with small companies and corporates and, let's say, higher education organizations. We will invest 300 million euros. Also, equity-free money. So in both these projects is equity-free money. So basically grants, non-returnable grants, or a co-investment on 70%. So it's 70% covered by the Commission and 30% have to be covered by the other partners. Also, it has to be a consortium built from 3 and 5 entities with a maximum amount of 3 million euros per project. Then, on the next stages, the most or the best well-known schemes at the European level is the biggest accelerator that we have. It's only targeted to SMEs, or startups and SMEs. So it is eligibility criteria. Only small companies can participate. And the biggest novelty that was launched in 2014 is that they can participate alone. So it's the first time that a European program is allowing single participation, meaning that a company from Riga or a company from Greece can participate alone, and we can finance their developments of their innovation. So how we do that? We're going to invest 1.6 billion euros until 2020 to finance over 4,000 projects. We have 2 different phases that companies can apply, and each phase, whatever the interest is. The first phase is, we call it a feasibility stage. Basically, we give a company 50K to do whatever they need to validate the financial, economical, and business aspects of their project. That 50K, they don't need to explain how they spend it, but what they have to provide after the 6 months or 3 or 4, depending on the duration of their project, is a final, basically kind of business plan demonstrating that the activities that they have done during the project really validate or not their business case. Then we have a more, let's say, focus on development stages where maybe also the capital required is quite high, as the phase 2, where we offer up to 2.5 million euros, 70% co-finance, where this is more cost-based, therefore companies need to provide their expenses, their invoices, and then we pay after. We have a, let's say, pre-financing of around 50%, so it's quite interesting for a company because at the moment they sign the contract, they receive 50% of the total grant. And then we have 6 Horizon 2020 prizes, as we call it, 6 challenge-based prizes on different areas of interest, where we'll invest around 40 million euros. Those areas could be through like innovative batteries for e-vehicles or blockchain for social good, etc. So there will be open calls that are available until 2019 or 2020, and the companies that will get closer to solving the challenge will get a prize, also equity-free, just free money that they will receive. And all this, as I was saying, that we want to support with smart money, meaning that we don't want only to give a grant, but we want to give other additional services that could really boost the development and the, let's say, the success possibilities of the entrepreneurs. We offer business coaching for all the SMEs participating in these 3 schemes, and also different business accelerator services that we'll explain later on. If you are familiar with the SME instrument, I will just give you a few details so you understand a little bit how you can apply. There are open calls that we have every 3 months a deadline, so you can apply. Phase 1 is very easy, 10-page proposals. You can write it yourself. We evaluate through 4 different international experts. We communicate the results 1 month after the deadline. And let's say, if you have been selected for funding, in 3 months, you will receive the money. For phase 2, we have included a second step. Before we were doing only a remote evaluation. Now we have the remote evaluation, and then we will have a face-to-face interview with a panel of experts. This has been applied just now, and currently, well, next week is going to be the first time that we are going to do it. So just as an example, on a phase 2 proposal is 30 pages proposal, also in a very business-oriented approach, so very easy for the company, for the management team of the company to write it themselves. After 2 months, they receive the results, and if you have been selected for funding, it will be in 6 months' time. So in this case, imagine with the budget that we have available, every deadline for a phase 2 project, we finance around 50 to 60 companies. So with the introduction of the interviews, we are going to call for interviews to a number close to the double of the projects that we can finance. So next week, we will have 128 companies pitching in front of a panel in Brussels, and the best 60, 65, depending on the amount they are also requesting, will get finance. As I said, it's not just about the money. We want to make the best use of the public money, and also the position that, as the Commission, with the networks and the contacts that we have in-house, and also that we have built in the many years of developments, we would like to provide additional services to the entrepreneurs in order to really maximize the impact of their developments. So we had available for each of the SMEs participating in this scheme support of business coaching, so the company can select from a pool of experts that we have already selected to work with us, a person that will work with the company face-to-face for 3 or 12 days, depending on which of the phases of the program they are. For a phase 1 of 50K, they will have 3 full days. For a phase 2 or an FTI or FED Open, they will have 12 full days. In addition, we have started to introduce business accelerator services. These services are, in a way, demand-driven, so we have been discussing with the beneficiaries of the program what are their needs, what they would like to receive from our side, whether they are struggling, etc. So based on the discussions with them, we have defined a set of services that are coming from participation in big events. So for 2018, we have selected the 8 main events in Europe that go from Mobile World Congress to CeBIT, that I know is here, Medica, Hannover Messe. So we support participation of some of our beneficiaries in a joint stand in that event, and we help also to build, let's say, business relationship, partnership, access to investors, etc. Then we have an academy where they can learn different business aspects that are important for them, or marketing, business modeling, financing, etc., and also share experiences with their peers. We have events with international investors where they can pitch their solutions, also online matchmaking, as well as the whole community that for the moment, you will see in the next slide, we have already 3,000 companies in our portfolio. So since 2014, in the SME instrument alone, we have more than 3,000 companies. So we tried also to put together all the community. This year, it will be in September in Berlin. We will have a gathering with all the beneficiaries of the SME instrument. So we will invite the 3,000 and maybe at that time already 3,500 companies to join us in Berlin, and we will organize a 2 full-day event also with all the interesting stakeholders involved. And last but not least, We have participation in overseas trade fairs. So we have selected, based also on the interest of the companies that we have in our portfolio, 15 different trade fairs outside Europe, where we can also provide 15 companies per trade fair, the participation in that fair with a joint stand of the Commission, and also different type of advice and support in order them to make the best deals and make the best of their time in that trade fair. And I forgot, it was the last thing that I wanted on these services, is also how we can help them to really build relations with corporates. We know that many of the corporates they are really interested in what the startups are doing, because mainly they are much more flexible, they are more innovative, they don't have the constraints of the big corporations, so many times they are looking what other small companies are doing in order to or acquire them or collaborate with them, etc. We already did 2 interesting events, one full-day events with ABB and Airbus, where we invited beneficiaries from our program to go to the premises and have one full day where they could pitch their solutions and try to explore business possibilities. Just an overview of the SM instrument so far. As I mentioned before, we started in 2014, so 3 full years already. We have more than 3,000 companies, out of which 860 are of phase 2. When checking the participation of member states, it's true that Latvian SMEs are, well, they could improve their participation. So far, we have only 14 companies that have received funding. That's also one of the reasons that I'm here, because I would like that you or participate if you're a startup, or you share with your community this possibility, what is available through Brussels that is very attractive. We believe that is really attractive for Latvian or for Baltic area companies. We have already deployed 1.3 billion euros, and well, being this equity-free money quite fast for being a type of bureaucratic approach, because our scheme is extremely fast, is very attractive. So the reality is, compared to other type of research collaborative projects, our success rate, is much lower. So we see that it's between 5 and 8%, depending on what is the instrument. So companies have to know that they will be competing with maybe some of the best companies all around Europe. So that's something that also they need to have in mind. Just an overview of the distribution, by industry. Now we have made few modifications. Before, the SME instrument was based on topics, so we had specific budget lines for these specific domains based on the priorities that were defined and were discussed with member states. Now this has changed. Now the SME instrument will be fully bottom-up, so maybe this, during the next years, will change. So far, we see that medical is let's say, the biggest industry, with almost 20% of the funding deployed on that area, and maybe fintech so far is the lowest, but these things could really change with the years being now fully bottom-up. I don't know what I did. There we go. Okay, few numbers, because on what is happening with those companies that we are supporting. So now we are analyzing our portfolio and trying to understand, okay, with the money they got, we know that they developed some projects, but we want to know more. So we are following through them, through service. We will follow them after the completion of the projects up to 3 years, but we also checking the available information, like in these cases from deal room, to understand, okay, what's happening? What are the deals? How much money are they, let's say, reaching or making these companies after they receive our grants? So with information that is publicly available, because many deals have, let's say, have not been, let's say, shared in the public. We know that with 119 companies from our portfolio have managed to attract almost 700 million euros of private equity. So, and we see that the progression through the years is extremely, let's say, is increasing very, very fast. So we realize that some of the companies that we invest in on are really attractive also to the private sector. Few data also on exits. So far, we have 12 acquisitions in 2014, mainly on the Scandinavian countries, 6 IPOs, 250 million on private equity only in 2017 that they have managed to raise, and in total around 1 billion of private money follow-on investments after the, let's say, the grants that they have received. So we are, in a way, seeing that, okay, where we are putting the money is in a place or in companies and organizations that are really making a difference because they are also able to attract later on different rounds of private money. Just to conclude, I would like to conclude with several success stories. Of course, this is relative. We have plenty of very interesting companies, but this could in a way show how different approaches or how things could be solved through our intervention. So the first case is a company from the UK. It's called Ultra Haptics. This company is really disrupting totally the market. So far, it's the only company that is offering these services. Don't tell me what they do because I try to understand in a way, but maybe I'm too stupid or I'm too bureaucratic now, but it's tough to understand. But we gave them a phase 2 grant of 1.5 million euros in 2015. And since then, they have been receiving prizes, and they have managed to have a Series B of almost 18 million pounds in 2017. So this is really one of the most disruptive companies that we are financing in our portfolio. The next case is a neighbor company from Estonia. They are doing graphene batteries. They are very popular now. They are everywhere in the media, Skeleton Technologies. They received a grant from us in 2015 of 2.5 million euros. And then after that has been like growing like crazy. So we cannot achieve this success to us, but we will say that maybe a small percentage of it could be achieved, let's say, given to us, because in the moment we gave that money, it really helped the private sector or the let's say the private investors to realize, okay, this company can develop this project up to the next 2 years. They have their own resources for that, so in a way I can trust them a little bit more. As I said, after that, they've managed to have 2 series, Series B and Series C, of almost 23 million euros. And now they just received a loan back by the EIB, the European Investment Bank, of 15 million euros to build the biggest ultracapacitator factory in Germany. Next story is Mantex from Sweden. This is one of the cases that we really like to show because in a way shows that our intervention made a big difference, meaning that the company was struggling. They had some issues with some of the investors. Some of them pulled out, so they were really suffering on their cash flows. And our grant really made them possible to restructure the company. And after a few years, they managed to really be on the stock market. So it was a company that we really saw that with our intervention, there was a big difference, a big impact, because at the moment there were maybe too many risks and private investors were a little bit doubting if the company was going to manage. And at the end they did. And the last story I wanted to tell now, it's a company from Israel. Basically, they were doubting if if they wanted, they were doubting to go to the European market or the US market. And basically our grant made them decide that they were going to invest in Europe instead of going to the US. So we managed to, let's say, keep the business here rather than make it this extremely successful company go directly to the US. So this was it from my side. I have one special guest now because when we were coming here, we got in contact with some of the beneficiaries of our scheme, and I have, let's say, the honor to invite one of our beneficiaries that is here in the audience with us, that he will explain a little bit what the company is doing. 5 minutes, is possible? Yes? Okay, and they will explain a little bit what is the, let's say, what was the experience participating in our scheme. Sorry, I need to see the name, just I pronounce it correctly. This is Janice Graubins from Notaki, so thank you, and please explain your case.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Janice Graubins. I'm founder of Notaki, which is identity and access management company. So what we do is that, I guess you all have bank accounts, and when you typically need to open that, you have to go to a bank's branch. However, the legislation in Europe and elsewhere is changing, and now like remote identification is possible. So we give the tools necessary in order to, through a video call, check if the ID documents are valid, to check in external database if there's such a person, do face matching of the document with the person, check all sanction lists, and in the end, the user is verified and he can open the bank account. Our experience with Horizon 2020 is that we applied when we started our company 2 years ago. We did the application ourselves, and we were lucky to receive 50,000 grant. The thing what I want to mention, what also Iker was telling, is how important actually also might be the mentorship which they provide. We were able to choose a mentor. We picked ex-banker from UBS who came to Latvia. So she did a 3-day workshop. Afterwards, when we went to Switzerland, where she's based, she introduced to chairmen of different banks. And in the end, she liked the startup so much that she invested the same amount as a grant into her own startup. So that's additional benefit of having Horizon grant. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.